The new Diversity and Inclusion Committee gives students of color more attention in the School of Music. And SGA President Keelin gives an update of what SGA is doing to serve the students of the GSU community. All this and more on this episode of Panther Report News. Hello, my name is Elisheva Wimberly, and welcome back for another episode of PRN. The vice presidential debate occurred last Wednesday on October 7th, and both parties had strong defensive and offensive arguments. The next debate was scheduled for October 15th, but has been canceled after President Trump tested positive for the coronavirus. President Trump backed out of a virtual debate with Biden that was proposed by the Presidential Commissions of Debates. Now, Donald Trump has a televised town hall that will be broadcasted October 15th at the same time as Joe Biden, creating a ratings duel. SGA President Keelin brings us up to speed on the new bills SGA has passed and what they plan to implement this upcoming year. I had a chance to talk with him, and here's what he had to say. As we all know, the noise from the long halls of Georgia State of what would have been students in a rush to and from classes have came to a halt due to the coronavirus. Today, they're more quieter than ever before. The Student Government Association, who proudly speaks for Georgia State's student body, has to represent their campuses online the best way they know how, even without being properly prepared.
One thing that we really missed out on this administration was training. Really, that happens at inauguration, just after we conclude the ceremony. We have training for all of our new officers, but that didn't happen for this administration.
SGA has heard the voices of students on serious issues such as the Black Lives Matter movement and the officer-involved shootings of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor, and they've responded with a call to action.
We should be seeing already on the diversity dialogues. President Becker, along with other faculty members, have been holding diversity dialogues this fall. There's been a number of focus groups, different focus groups that have been happening. Questions that were asked of students were, have they ever felt as though they've experienced discrimination, racial discrimination by a faculty or staff member at Georgia State?
Sexual assault on Georgia State campuses is another serious issue that's been addressed. SGA has took initiative by having sexual assault and human trafficking training, partnering with the Human Trafficking Institute, and working with the African Diaspora Student Advocacy Coalition.
Those were some of the initiatives that we had planned. There's a lot more stuff that we could be doing and we should be doing in order to address sexual assault on campus. But that was just where we started.
With Election Day around the corner, SGA is helping students find ways to get to the polls if they are unable to take themselves.
I think on the Atlanta campus, our executive vice president has been working on getting students I believe it's a promo code for Uber. And so if they want to, Uber themselves or their friends to the polls on November 3rd, they would be able to do that, if not free, but at a reduced cost to them.
SGA is also working on completing their menstrual product initiative, where they'll provide free menstrual products for students on all campuses.
Hopefully, within the next couple of weeks before this month is up, we'll be marketing our either mail-in or pick-up menstrual product service on all campuses.
Elisheva Wimberly, PRN. Georgia breaks a record this year for the first day of early voting. More than 128,000 Georgians voted on Monday, and the previous record was around 90,000 voters. On day 2 of early voting, there were still long lines and wait times, with at least 111,000 voters casting their ballots in person on Tuesday, which brings the 2-day total for advanced voting to around 240,000. If you haven't already, Panthers, and you're the age of 18 and older, please remember to cast your ballots and vote. Some shocking things have happened lately in sports. We now turn to Tyrik Wynn to give us the latest on what all has happened.
Thanks, Elisheva. What's up, guys? I'm Tyrik Wynn, and welcome to PRN Sports. We're going to kick things off with the Georgia State football team. Right now, the State Panthers currently sit at 1-1. Georgia State hosted their first home game against Louisiana. PRN's Koa-Ben Yisrael was at that game. Koa, tell us what went down.
Here at Center Park Stadium, where our Georgia State Panthers are about to face off against the 19th ranked Louisiana Raging Cajuns. This is no question about to be a very exciting game. We've all been waiting for this moment to happen right now. Let's see what happens. Our Panthers were dominating Louisiana's defense by rushing the ball for 105 yards in the first quarter alone, including a 12-yard touchdown run by Cornelius Brown. The Panthers then added another quick touchdown on the board with a 28-yard touchdown pass to Roger Carter to extend their lead early on in the second. The score heading into halftime was 14-7, Georgia State up. The first half was in control by the Panthers, and it didn't just stop there. To open up the third quarter, linebacker Victor Hayward grabbed an interception that led to another Panthers touchdown for them to extend their lead to 21-7. However, the Raging Cajuns responded with back-to-back rushing touchdown drives, with the notable monster 59-yard touchdown run by Elijah Mitchell. Mitchell wasn't just done there. He then added another 53-yard run to help set up a Louisiana touchdown for them to get their first lead of the game, 28-21. The Panthers answered right back with a touchdown of their own by Dustin Coates to tie the game. With a tied score at 28 heading into overtime, the Panthers opened up their first drive with a field goal, and the Raging Cajuns responded with a touchdown run by Elijah Mitchell once again, which ended the game. Head coach Sean Elliott was still encouraged by his team's play on the field, yet disappointed in the result of the game.
To play that football team the way we did and have the opportunity to win, and I'm very proud of our football team. It was a great effort on everybody's part, and a most disappointing effort that we didn't win that football game because we had every opportunity to win the football game.
Even though the outcome of this game is nothing what we expected at all, this game has definitely showed all of us that our team will be great moving forward this season. Make sure you guys are all staying safe out there. Koa-Ben Yisrael, PRN.
Thanks, Koa. Following that game, the Panthers were set to face off against Charlotte, but that game was postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. There were several coronavirus tests that came back positive. And speaking of the coronavirus, as many of you know, quarterback Michele Colasudro was not going to be playing this season due to a heart condition, which was a result of his COVID-19 diagnosis. But he has just received some really good news. PRN's Briaunna Malone has more.
Georgia State quarterback Michele Colasudro was diagnosed with myocarditis after finding out he contracted coronavirus. Myocarditis is a symptom of COVID-19.
My ejection fracture came back bad. So basically it's how efficient your heart is at pumping blood. That came back really bad. So the reasoning they gave me, they thought that it was some kind of inflammation. And there was a couple different things. Myocarditis was one of them, and that was the one associated with COVID.
After doing an MRI, about a week later, Colasudro received news that would change his diagnosis for myocarditis.
I got my MRI, and I wasn't supposed to see the cardiologist again, and he called our trainer and was like, hey, his MRI came back way better than we thought it was. Like, it wasn't even in the same ballpark. So that's kind of why it was such a weird kind of deal.
Colasudro says from here on out, he is allowed and eligible to play, but how much he plays is left up to the decision of the trainers.
Thanks, Brianna. The Georgia State volleyball team continues to have its struggles. So far, they have only won one game this season. They had back-to-back home games with Georgia Southern, but they won one but lost the other. After those two games, Coastal Carolina shut out the Lady Panthers 3-0 in 2 games. The volleyball team will face off against Appalachian State on October 23rd. Shifting gears a little bit here, let's talk about this red-hot men's soccer team. They are killing it, yo. The soccer team currently sits at 6-1. On Tuesday, October 6th, the Georgia State took on Mercer University. PRN's Jason Davina went out to the game to witness their success.
GSU came into this game with a 4-0 record. Having already picked up a win in Macon earlier in the season, 2-1, GSU aimed for a season sweep and to match their best start to a season in the program's history since 2003. After 30 scrappy minutes with not many chances created by either team, Georgia State had the opportunity to get on the scoreboard with a penalty kick at the 34th minute. GSU's captain George Proctor could not capitalize. Georgia State was gifted another penalty 7 minutes later. This time it was Matthew Fernley who missed his chance to put GSU on top. Georgia State's coach Sorensi used the missed penalties as motivation for his team to pick up the pace in the second half.
You know, as funny as it sounds, we went into halftime telling the guys that was exactly what we needed as a group.
GSU indeed picked up the pace and got on the mark early in the second with a goal by Ross Finney, his first of the season. The rest of this half was much like the first, scrappy and with not many shots on goal aside from a free kick by Proctor. The game was close throughout until Eris Briggs sealed the game with a wonderful solo goal at the 89th minute. This was Briggs' fourth goal of the season. Since this game, GSU has faced Coastal Carolina and the University of Alabama at Birmingham, picking up a 1-0 loss and a 2-1 win. GSU now has a 6-1 record and will be looking for a 7th win against their bitter rivals, Georgia Southern, on October 16th. This is Jason Davila, PRN.
The Atlanta Braves are currently playing in the NLCS. The Braves were dominating and won the first 2 games, but then they got blown out by the Los Angeles Dodgers on Game 3. The final score of that game was 15-3. Despite the big loss, the Braves are still leading the Dodgers 2-1 in the playoffs, so hopefully the Braves can go all the way. The Atlanta Falcons continue to struggle this season. They currently sit at 0-5 and in last place in the NFC South Division. As a result, the Atlanta Falcons fired both head coach Dan Quinn and general manager Thomas Dimitroff. Here's what the Atlanta Falcons owner Arthur Blank had to say after both men were released from the team.
It's called lack of winning. So the problems we have to solve are all the problems that are ahead of us that keep us from winning. And I'd add, you know, if I can, Justin, this is not just a response to a 0-5. It's a response to really almost 3.5 years post Super Bowl. We've been playing less than 500 ball, and so when you look at that many games over a long period of time, and you adjust for injuries, which every NFL team has, we just haven't performed at the level that we're capable of. We think our talent is better than we have the record at this point. And for a variety of reasons, we weren't getting the results that we needed to get. So the time for the change was now.
Also, former head coach Dan Quinn wrote a letter to the city of Atlanta. In that letter, he thanked the city of Atlanta and the Atlanta Falcons for allowing him to be the coach of the team. He also touched on how much he is going to miss the city and, most importantly, the players in the locker room. Hopefully, the Falcons can turn this season around. Raheem Morris will take over and become the interim head coach. After accepting his position, here's what he had to say.
I just want to start off by saying I can't say enough and give gratitude to Dan Quinn and what he's done for this organization, this city, this town, this team, and everybody just in our building, and what he's meant personally to me in my life. You're talking about a guy who brought me into this game, coached me in college, brought me with him to Atlanta, has just meant the world to me. You know, it's always going to be the one you got to talk about when you talk about a guy whose values and core beliefs are so tied in with Dan Quinn, being the guy that just left and the guy that's now out of work. But when you look at it and you think about it, the reason Dan Quinn was here were for those values, were for those things that he brought to the table, that he was able to bring every single day. As our job as coaches is to identify problems, and players' jobs are to fix them. So right now, we're in the business of identifying problems, and it starts this week. We got to be able to go out. We got to be able to execute. We got to be able to do better.
Now we turn our attention to breaking sports news. For the first time since 1949, the NFL will not have a postseason All-Star game. The NFL made a big announcement on the league decided to cancel this season's Pro Bowl because of the coronavirus. The game, which was supposed to be held in Las Vegas, won't take place, but the league will still name the Pro Bowl teams and host a variety of engaging virtual activities for the players selected for the game. And speaking of the Pro Bowl, most of you may know that New Orleans Saints kicker Will Lutz was the first Georgia State alumni to make it to the Pro Bowl, and he continues to dominate in his position. I had a chance to chop it up with him the other day to see how he went from Georgia State's kicker to an NFL sensation. How can you say, how well did the football team at Georgia State prepare you for the NFL?
Well, it was tough at first. I don't think losing games prepares you for much, but that was part of being in a young program. We were still learning a lot and learning how to win, and I think it allowed me to compete at all times. When you're competing with other guys coming in, because when you're a young program, they're trying to replace everyone at every time, just to find the right guys out there. So I had to go in there and compete every day. We had a coach who with a lot of NFL experience. He coached Curry when I first got there, so he instilled that confidence in me that I had an opportunity. The sky was the limit. So I went in there, ready to learn, ready to compete, and it's paid off.
Well, that wraps it up for this edition of PRN Sports. Make sure you guys stay safe out there. I'm Tyrik Wynn. Elisheva, back to you.
The new Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is being used to bring students of all walks of life together to form a unity in response to the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. PRN reporter Antwane Willis tells us more on why.
The Georgia State University School of Music has created the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee to get more students of all races who have a passion for music involved.
The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, or DEI, was created in response to the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, in hopes that students of color with music-related majors know that Georgia State wants them to succeed as much as possible.
The ultimate goal would be for any student of any background, of any color, of any sexual orientation at all, no matter how they see themselves, comes into a school of music and at some point encounters music that they are familiar with, or sees people that look like them, or hears music that they grew up listening to.
Students that join the DEI will have access to multiple music seminars that have a different artist every time and musical opportunities year-round.
And this is something that we're committed to for the long term.
Antwane Willis, PRN.
Georgia State is now ranked third most innovative university in the nation and third for commitment to undergraduate teaching. PRN's Tyler Wilson gets an inside look on how professors and students feel attending a university ranked so high, and if Georgia State deserves such a title.
Georgia State University is ranked the third most innovative university in the nation and third for its commitment to undergraduate teaching in the 2021 Best Colleges edition of U.S. News and World Report magazine. Georgia State ranked first among public universities in the commitment to undergraduate teaching category. Arizona State University is first in this year's innovation ranking, and Brown University topped the undergraduate teaching ranking.
I think we've had a friendly competition with Arizona State for some time, and I think sometimes they get credit that we really deserve because they borrow a lot of our ideas.
For 3 years, Georgia State University has ranked top 3 schools in the nation for innovation and for their commitment to undergraduate teaching. Although these rankings are high, Dean of Students Michael Sansevero believes there's still room for improvement.
That is the same way on the academic side. It's hard for a brand new student to come in and say, oh my goodness, there's like 100 majors for me to choose from. How do I know which one's the right fit for me? We're going to continue to be available to students virtually from this point forward so that no matter what a student needs, we will be able to serve their needs on site through our 6 campuses or virtually if that's what the student prefers.
In the academic programs to look for category, Georgia State ranks 6th for its first-year experience. The indicator measures how well a university builds into its curriculum first-year seminars or other academic programs that regularly bring small groups of students together with faculty or staff.
For us, there's a few different things that sets us apart. I think when you think about our first-year experience, it really starts with the entire onboarding process, the way in which we engage our students through the admission process, and then through the new Panther Welcome experience, including the new student orientation, and then Welcome Week, our first year convocation, as well as the extended orientation course.
Fourth-year student India Murray couldn't agree more with Georgia State's rankings. She also feels as though the school does an amazing job at creating a small family feel, which helps students get better acclimated into college.
Since I've gotten here, I've had I would say probably my family. I've met my family at Georgia State. I've been to other campuses, and it's just not like Georgia State. I love the friends and the relationships that I've built here.
Mark Becker, president of Georgia State, stated, "We have sustained our leadership in the innovation and undergraduate teaching rankings, reflecting the higher education community's recognition of our focus on student success at Georgia State. Our commitment to students and their success has never been more important than it is today, with the disruption and turmoil resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic." This is Tyler Nicole Wilson for PRN.
Dr. Timothy Denning, Associate Director of the Institute for Biomedical Sciences at Georgia State University, has been named the Vice President for Research and Economic Development. Denning, a professor in the Institute for Biomedical Science since 2018, came to Georgia State in 2013 as an associate professor, but was named Associate Director of the Institute in 2015. He was chaired the university's Institutional Biosafety Committee and has been Vice Chair of Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. He has also worked closely with university research and service and administration. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Panther Report News. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at GSUPRN and comment down below to let us know what you thought about this week's show. Again, I'm Elisheva Wimberly, and we will see you guys next week.